night, I'm going, oh my God, this person is on. Oh my God, that person is on. So, very exciting. Marilynn Hughes is going to talk about how to OBE. And, I've developed this habit now of going to the looking glass, looking at messages, because there's so many of them coming in. But if I can here just briefly, Mr. Coffee says, keep being you. Art would probably agree that Alex is the one that turned the frogs queer. Oh, I was just dying over that one. And Deb says, in this age, a combination of communication methods has to be considered when it comes to popularity. We love you, Heather. Thanks so much for your show. And on that note, Deb in Washington State says, thank you, Heather, for your reminder of kindness. Also, you're the best alternative to old school talk shows that have become partisan, politically, and socially conservative. Yet most of talk out there is just all conservative. You can find some other politically leaning talk shows out there. They do exist. But in my mind, leaning one direction or the other is a mistake, because now you're just a parrot for talking points and a set of beliefs. You're not doing pure talk. So it's just an interesting time that we live in. I really recommend out-of-body travel to deal with the times that we're in right now. Well, it's one of the things. Deb in Washington State also says here, I left one of those shows a while ago and have never looked back. Keep up the stellar work. Love and blessings from Deb. Maker asks here, is Our Lady inspiring a grim but light mood to the others out there? Or is it other unseen forces like karma? Well, Marilynn Hughes may be the person to ask about that. She knows about energy. And when Maker is talking about Our Lady, well, he is mentioning a controversial figure of La Santa Muerte, very misunderstood figure. And perhaps we can find time to talk about that later, but it is an interesting question, and I bet Marilynn Hughes will have something to say about all of this. And now, let me introduce to you Marilynn Hughes, who founded the Out-of-Body Travel Foundation in 2003 with a mission to reduce spiritual and physical hunger worldwide. Marilynn has written 101 books, 40 magazines, and 18 CDs, all on out-of-body travel and comparative religious mysticism. These books, along with accompanying music and art, are all available for free to download on her website, outofbodytravel.org. Marilynn has experienced, researched, written, and taught about out-of-body travel and mysticism since 1987, and has appeared on innumerable radio and television programs to discuss her thousands of out-of-body experiences. Well, she can add tonight to her list. Marilynn Hughes is the author of the first and only English language encyclopedia of ancient sacred texts, The Voice of the Prophets, Wisdom of the Ages. She was featured in the documentary film The Road to Armageddon, a spiritual documentary, which has been viewed by well over 500,000 people. She has been included in the Encyclopedia of the Unseen World by Constance Hadari, and Planetary Experiences, Alien-Human Contact, and The Expansion of Consciousness by Dr. Thomas Stryker. Marilynn has been the subject of several out-of-body travel research studies. K.C. Armstrong, former producer of The Howard Stern Show, named Marilynn as one of 13 simply amazing women he featured in his May 2020 book. She spent 2 years on the original board of the Dr. Edgar Mitchell Foundation for research into extraterrestrial experiences, or FREE as it is known. Marilynn Hughes and Dr. Rudy Schild, Professor Emeritus of Astrophysics, Harvard, co-authored a chapter, The Science for Moral Law, which is included in Volume 3 of The Change. Marilynn has joined James Van Praagh and the research team at The Afterlife Uncovered. And I ask you, Not what Marilynn Hughes has done, but what has she not done. I think this guest we're about to have on, who is one of my absolute new favorite people in the world, I think she has done it all. And so, well, am happy, absolutely thrilled to welcome our distinguished guest, Marilynn Hughes, to the show tonight. Welcome to the program, Marilynn, and how are you doing tonight?
Thank you so much, Heather. I'm doing great. How are you?
Oh, I'm excited about this. It's been a weird day, I have to tell you.
Tell me what's going on.
It's just been a very strange kind of day. Well, good in many ways. It's been a very good day around here, and maybe that's what's unusual to me, is that it has been a good day.
Yeah.
Got some goodies in the mail, which is always nice. I've had guests coming my way. There's a lot of work to do to put this show on, but it seems that work is getting easier and easier to do. It just makes me think that, I hesitate. I really do hesitate because I don't want to jinx anything. But it's starting to feel like everything is coming into alignment, and it feels really, really good.
Well, that's a good thing. That's a fantastic thing.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I know we're here to talk about how to have an out-of-body experience, but I've got to ask you what we were just talking about a minute ago before I brought you on. I have to ask you about this wild energy around the globe right now. If things happen in the energy before they happen on the ground, as you said before, then what is going on, Marilynn?
Well, we are entering an unusual time, that's for sure. The times that we are in are actually happening right as predicted by the prophecies that have been coming through, not just the ones that I've received, but ones that have been coming for hundreds of years from other prophetic sources, including Nostradamus and Saint Malachi. Some of the other more modern people who have had prophetic experiences. And this is the period, the next 10 to 15 years that people have spoken about where things are going to get a little bit crazy.
A little bit. Yeah.
And so, what happens is that there are periods of time where the protections that have been holding things in place, so to speak, around the globe and around us as humanity are kind of pulled back. And it's pulled back in part because we're not kind of making progress the way that we should. Several other mystics have shared with me, and this is not just recently. These are things that we have been told in the last 100 years as well. But recently, we've also been hearing from other mystics that it's, we've passed that point of no return where we're going to be heading here towards some of these tribulations that we're going to experience because it's just a little bit too late. We're not learning from our mistakes as a species and on a soul level. So we're going to go through some difficulties. So some of these protections are pulled back. So during what we normally experience, we have a lot of spiritual protection, and that protects us from a lot of things, and we're not necessarily completely aware of it. So, we talk about how things happen in energy before it hits the ground. What slowly occurs before a time like this is that those protections are pulled away. So we have less intervention occurring on Earth. So the consequences of what is actually being put into that management realm of our thoughts, our words, our deeds, our actions are now hitting the ground more quickly and more clearly without intervention. So we are experiencing an escalation, an acceleration of what is really unfortunately, the heart, soul, and mind of the human species, which, as we can see, is pretty chaotic, and there's a lot of darkness coming out.
Oh, I was afraid you'd use that word, tribulation.
Yes.
Okay, well, okay, gosh, so the protection's being pulled back. So is that sort of the veneer of polite society coming back to reveal the undercurrent within that nobody really acknowledges or lets show too terribly much, and now that's showing?
Yes, absolutely. But also, in a book I wrote in the Mysteries of the Redemption series called Medicine Woman Within a Dream, I wrote in detail about the alteration of reality, and it speaks in depth on how the spirit world can intervene on our behalf. And what happens is, the guardian angels are not given as much permission to intervene. It still happens, but things are just pulled back. Yes, so not only is our internal nature becoming just much more external, but we don't have as much protection, spiritual protection, to protect us from our own, the natural consequences of our own, not only our actions, but also our thoughts, our words, our deeds, the natural cause and effect of what we are putting into place. In the normal course of events, there are so many things where we would say, but for the grace of God go I. There's a lot more where that's not happening. We're not seeing that intervention, which would be that grace of God that intervened, because we are now seeing consequence occur. And so it's just multiplying and multiplying one upon the other. This is a time when we are kind of paying the price for our unwillingness to listen to what has already been revealed to us and to receive and to be obedient to some of the things that have already been revealed to us. And so those protections are pulled back, and this kind of time comes into play. It's there's a lot of prophetic type things that people are experiencing now, who are having mystical experiences that are very apocalyptic in nature. And apocalyptic type periods occur throughout history. It's not always necessarily one period in time.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't necessarily mean that there won't be one period in time where it's more significant than another. But we have these periods that become more apocalyptic in nature, and that's when the darkness accelerates. And that's what we're seeing. We're seeing the darkness is accelerating because the darkness is being given a foothold. And part of that foothold is coming from our own permission that we're granting it. It's decisions that we have been making that are unwise, and our own lack of interior work
Mm.
and our own lack of the proper types of the 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 proper types of exterior works that are also necessary to keep society in a position of control of some level. And so everything, the interior darkness that we all carry is also coming out in ways that are unbridled and just categorically unevaluated.
Mm-hmm.
And very, very undefined.
Yeah, God, if there's a word to describe the energy in the air tonight, it's that undefined. Yes.
Yes. And so, ironically, and a lot of my books speak about this purification process that I talk about a lot, which is the reason that we incarnate into this realm here on Earth and into all mortal realms that we may inhabit. And it's this purification process of that good and evil within ourselves and in the world around us. And what we're seeing is when there is a complete, kind of like there's so much that has been ignored in terms of the purpose of our incarnating here.
Mm-hmm.
There's been this like standstill in terms of actually tending to the matter of spiritually, why are we here? So that we're actually doing the work of the soul while we're here. Mm-hmm. That what ends up happening is this type of like this craziness that emerges because it takes almost like a thrust of this kind of energy before people are even going to realize, oh my gosh, we've really let it get out of hand. You know what I mean?
Okay. Gosh. Wow. I knew you'd be able to make some sense out of this. So we have one thing going on internally and one thing going on externally, and these two things are not in alignment. And then we have, pursued capitalism, and hey, I'm not against capitalism. But we have pursued capitalism at the cost of our own souls. And now the soul is lashing out. But you also said that there were prophecies for the last 100 years, maybe longer, that have warned us of this time.
Well, actually, a lot of these prophecies go back 2,000 and more years, but some of the specific prophecies in relation to this particular time, the years 2020 to 2035, have been coming in the last 100 to 200 years, from the visions, the visions of Our Lady, the Marian apparitions, Our Lady of Fatima in particular, but there have been others. Pope John the 23rd actually had particular visions about this. There was Saint Malachi, and he was around in the Middle Ages, around the time of Nostradamus, and he had very specific visions around this period of time as well, and literally to the dates of 2027 to 2033. So, it's very interesting what we're seeing. There are some other prophetic people that are having some very interesting things right now about what is happening and what it all means. But, some of this even goes to, this makes me think of Emanuel Swedenborg, who was a 16th century mystic. And he spoke about this just simplifies it a little, in that, when we are on Earth, we have the way that we appear to people outside, and then exteriorly, and then we have also what we are interiorly.
Mm-hmm.
But he spoke about how in his visions that, because he had this really, one of his great works was a book called Heaven and Hell. And he had, he was very prolific and he had a ton of works, but this was one in particular he wrote, where he spoke about how when a person crosses over, who they are interiorly becomes manifest. So if a person is actually interiorly in a dark place, that darkness would become very exteriorly manifest in their spirit once they cross over. Right now, we're kind of seeing that happen with a lot of us while we are incarnate. Some of these internal forces that are kind of gurgling up inside of us are kind of getting out of control, and we are having trouble maintaining the false faces anymore, So some of these things are coming forward, and some of these the things that people hide are coming out. Unfortunately, there is also a great deal of confusion, and part of this confusion is coming because, again, we go back to purification.
Mm-hmm.
Wherein that people are not engaging in this process, the process of purification, which is so incredibly important in the formation of the soul. And part of the process of purification involves the formation of a proper conscience. And so because these processes have been neglected, there is all this confusion around what is good and what is evil and what is the gray area, and everyone's kind of like all over the place. And so people are literally biting each other's heads off because good, as it said in the Bible,
Mm-hmm.
good has become evil and evil has become good, and nobody knows which one is which anymore. But, this is part of why purification was and remains so necessary, because if we do not engage in that forming of a conscience that is based on, the actual process of, mystical and ascetical theology that comes from, ironically, it comes from this process of the mystical state, out-of-body travel, through the mystical training where we actually learn energetically how these things operate, why things are good, why things are evil energetically, then we don't really understand why good is good and evil is evil, because good is good because it moves us forward towards life, towards creation, towards progress, whereas evil is evil because it moves us towards destruction, chaos, and death. And but there is more to it energetically, and this is why this is something that we actually are taught mystically as we learn to experience astral projection and then further out-of-body travel, where it is taught to us through the vibrational experience, which teaches us that knowledge. Because one of the big things that I'm always trying to get across to people is knowledge isn't information, it's vibration. And we learn these things through vibration. And so even the knowledge of good and evil comes to us through vibration. And so as a society, we have become so disconnected from God and disconnected from the spirit and from that vibration that we're almost kind of like running around with our heads cut off,
Yes,
and
yes.
we don't know, we don't understand, and we can't tell what's right or wrong anymore. And we're just kind of wanting to fight amongst ourselves, It doesn't make sense.
Right. Well, okay. This is really tying some things together. Boy, did you ever set the absolute perfect stage for us to take a break and come back and then begin talking about how to have an out-of-body experience. I know it's not that simple, right? But I want to start with the purification process. That sounds like a very important first step that we cannot ignore. The purification process. You know, in every system of magic, mysticism, religion, there is a step of purification before any spiritual work is done. And you can find this in you know, any spiritual belief system out there. There is always a purification phase, and then that's when you proceed into the more interesting stuff. So, Marilynn Hughes is most certainly in the house tonight, in the kingdom. And I just knew she would have something to say about the state of the energy that we are in. And so, let's just get...
Radio? You love the new Paranormal Radio app from TalkStream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment. The Paranormal Radio app, free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
Here's some sound advice. Don't buy a new car with an old radio. Make sure it's got HD radio. Hear more stations and CD quality sound with no monthly fees. Be sure the car you're buying is fully equipped. Ask your dealer about HD radio. Discover it at hdradio.com.
We're here asking people from all over what they think of Lipton green tea. Let's hear what people from Texas have to say. How about China? Germany? How about people from the North Pole? Or Mars? What about mimes? Oh, right. People with their jaws wired shut? Oh. Yeah, a barbershop quartet. Ah, you guys are great. How about race car drivers? What about you, high school glee club, here on a field trip? Well, that settles it. It sounds like everyone loves the taste of Lipton green tea. With its protective antioxidants from real tea, it's not just good for you, it's to you. Lipton tea can do that.
Oh, Larry.
I'm watching Jeopardy, Laverne.
It's our honeymoon.
Oh, this week it's the first round of the Jeopardy Tournament of Champions.
We have this water bed.
This is primo Jeopardy action. The champ wins $100,000.
It's a vibrating water bed.
Sorry, Laverne, the Tournament of Champions.
Okay.
Jeopardy. Any questions?
Yeah, how do you turn this thing off?
AncientLifeOil.com. For your CBD needs, just remember, AncientLifeOil.com. What does it do for the body, you ask? I can't say to the people in the suits that run the industry. Big Pharma's all over CBD because of its well, you know what I mean. Research the benefits of CBD on Google and come back to AncientLifeOil.com and purchase your CBD today. Non-GMO and all organic. You don't want to be using a petroleum product. You want to be using the cleanest CBD product on the market. AncientLifeOil.com. We even have CBD for your pet. Help your pet's discomfort. Help your discomfort. Log on to ancientlifeoil.com. That's ancientlifeoil.com. Newly reduced prices to pass off the savings to the most important person, you. ancientlifeoil.com. And one more thing, we have topicals too. So if you have joint pain and some different issues that are going on in your body, you might want to use a topical. Think about it. ancientlifeoil.com.
You need brake pads? We have brake pads, like dependable brake pads, quieter brake pads, longer life brake pads, and performance brake pads. At AutoZone, we have all the brake pads you need, so you can get the job done right.
Get in the zone, AutoZone.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7, with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
We have ignitions.
So it is you said before that out-of-body travel is the key to everything. I mean, I remember stuff that my guests tell me, and this stuff is really stuck in my mind, the things that you were saying. And so is this a good path to get the world where it needs to be, or us where we need to be, or closer to where we ought to be, out-of-body travel?
Absolutely. Ironically, it really is the key to that. Ironically, this is the way that we can all turn this thing around. And the reason why that is the case is because what out-of-body travel provides to people is the most direct route to their spiritual evolution, which is what we've all been kind of ignoring and not necessarily completely ignoring, but definitely not giving enough attention to and not making enough progress on. And the thing about out-of-body travel, you know, a lot of people look at it as a paranormal thing, you know, just something cool, but really what it is, it's a tool that accelerates that evolution and brings it about in such a way. It's so much more than people realize. And part of the reason it does this is because once you're able to learn this, you are literally given the you're put in the driver's seat of what it is that you came here to accomplish on a soul level. And you're personally directed, as you know, to all these important soul lessons that you need to learn. You know, you meet in person all the teachers that you need to meet. You're mystically taught, you know, about your past lifetimes and what it is that you're not seeing about your habitual behaviors in different lifetimes that you need to address this time around. Then you're taken through whatever the issues that you might have, the darkness and the light, you know, the areas that you need to address that you can clear up. It makes it so much quicker and so much more efficient because you're shown things that would normally take a lot more time to be able to see through normal means, because you're just taken directly into it. You see the energetic truth of something like an area within your soul, and when you're shown that energetic truth, it all makes sense to you in a way that you can actually correct it with much more ease than, you know, the normal route. You know?
Well, I mean, you know, talking to a therapist or going to a counselor or a guru or buying books, those things are all great and wonderful. But there's something about a person's first out-of-body experience that is, it stays with you forever. And Marilynn, I think maybe you could agree and maybe expand on this. it teaches us in a single moment, as soon as you are out of your body the first time, even if it's just, oh, I've gone a few feet out of my body, and then you go right back in because something spooked you, just that experience will let you know you are more than this physical body that we have, and that is a profound step right there.
It is. And, that is, it allows you to realize you're a spiritual being. But, one of the things that people don't realize is that is truly just a tip of an iceberg.
Yes.
It is truly such a multidimensional experience in terms of that is literally like walking out the front door.
Yes.
And what comes next in terms of what you are going to experience beyond that is almost beyond words.
Right. You've just pulled into the parking lot of the amusement park. You haven't been on any of the rides. You haven't bought your ticket yet. You have not been in line at the concession stand, nothing. But it does let a person know, wait a minute, I'm not just this body. Maybe there's something to all of this talk about the spirit. Maybe spirituality is important, and then a person is motivated to continue along the out-of-body path. I highly recommend it. And what's so interesting to me is that when I started recommending, and this was, before all of this next sort of phase of madness hit us, and I really, I'm trying to use my words carefully. I really don't want to anger anybody on either side of the issues. But I was starting to recommend out-of-body travel for folks in the pandemic, and then here you showed up, in the midst of all of that. And then a couple articles later, I think I wrote about, look, find some spirituality, anything at this point. Find some spirituality and get into it. And get spiritual, whatever that means for a person, because we're all different in this world. There's a lot of different spiritualities out there, and so it's strange that you and I are on this wavelength, and I find it quite refreshing and very enjoyable. And like I say, it sounds kind of hokey, new agey, woo woo, foo foo to say this, but I really feel in alignment with something important.
And it's so important, because, there's so much more to the out-of-body experience. Once you get out of the body and you're just getting past, just the astral realm experiences, you're going to start traveling to these other realms, the heavens, hells, the purgatories, the higher light spheres. You start going into the initiations, into the mysteries, the rites of passage, the rites of the ascension. You go to unbelievable corridors into different spheres and higher frequencies of light, and you meet all of the different types of angels that exist in, different realms, different spheres, different, because there's so many different orders of angels in the different realms. You meet different types of teachers who teach about different spiritual concepts. You learn about how reality is created on the ground, how reality begins in energy. You begin to be introduced to extraterrestrial beings who exist on other planets and in interdimensional planetary type worlds as well. Wow. You start meeting with the prophets, saints, mystics, and sages, and ascetics, and all these great souls who have been on our planet from all the different world religions and also all the different tribes and the different traditions from all over the world, all the different cultures. And you learn about the Aboriginals and the, all the sacred traditions from around the world. And you are initiated into these different traditions, because each of those traditions actually contain a vibration. So when we speak of vibration as knowledge, you want to take on the vibration of that knowledge, because in order to fully understand it, of it. So, I mean, there is much more than people realize. God is so much greater than any of us know or can even imagine. And so what you are doing when you open this door is you are allowing God to come in and form you according to his wisdom, rather than trying to continue to form yourself according to our very limited wisdom, our human wisdom. And you never make a mistake by allowing God to come in and form you, because God comes in from the knowledge of all of that, all that he has created. You know, many of the things that I have experienced, included like experiencing the energy of all the wisdom of all the Dalai Lamas, getting to touch the casket that contained all the knowledge of the Dalai Lamas. And, literally, when you touch it, your body is thrust to the ground, your spiritual body. Meeting the medicine women from throughout all the ages and throughout time, and taking in that energy. There is so much to be learned and to be taken in. It is so much more than people realize, and this is when I say it is the key to everything. I'm just giving you a glimpse into what I mean. It really is that key.
Wow.
There is so much more than people know, and so it is so much greater, so much greater.
Well, maybe take us through this. What is the purification process? Is that something that we can do for ourselves?
Well, absolutely. And so, there's a few things that I would tell people to do just to begin preparation. And some of these are, a little intuitive, so we'll just, zip through some of these. But, one of the biggest things is getting people to seek out silent places. A lot of people have too much noise in their lives, so we want to get rid of some of the noisiness. Look for silence in your life. Another thing is you've got to set aside self-serving motivations in seeking out the out-of-body experience, because this is a higher purpose type experience. So we want to get rid of the self-serving motivations, and we want to seek the will of God alone. And that's important, because as you do this, you are actually altering your own energy to make it possible for you to receive. And so that it changes your energy to make you more able to have the experience. And of course, we want to humble ourselves to receive that. And again, approaching the path with deep respect, we want to approach it with discernment. We want to cultivate patience, because it is going to require patience. Understand the purpose, which is, again, that this is a holy quest that we are taking. One other thing that's really important is anticipating that there will be dry periods. And what that means is you're going to have periods where you experience things that start up, and then you're going to have periods where it seems like it's slowed down. Don't let that discourage you. That's normal. And we are going to approach this with an attitude of service. We want to look towards this as we want to be serving our fellow humanity and serving God, because one of the things I've always been told by the angels was that we are always required to give back to creation that which creation gives to us. And you'll find that in the out-of-body experience, as you begin to experience these things, you will be required to give back. And if you read my books, you'll see that, it starts out like with things like working with lost souls, helping with ghosts, things like that. But it goes on into spiritual warfare, working with other things with souls who are crossing over, and working in the heavenly and the purgatorial and the hell realms as well. And so those are some of the ways that we give back to creation, that which creation gives to us. So we want to remember that we approach things in an attitude of service. And so beginning with the idea of purification, we want to remember that anyone who enters into a mortal realm is doing so because they have elements of good and evil within themselves, and their purpose here is to purify those darker elements and attain to more of that light so that they can eventually clear it out and basically graduate from this realm and go higher. And so we begin that purification process by engaging in a stronger prayer life. And so we want to develop prayerful fervor. So we want to develop a stronger prayer life. Remember, prayer is asking God. So I always direct people to try to incorporate, discussing things with God, just talking to God as if he's a friend. You can do this, just even in your own mind as you go through your day. Some people do this very naturally. Some people it's harder for them. We want to take another step, which is to detach from things of the world. And this goes in with, the silence and kind of shutting out the noise, detach from the things of the world. We want to try to be creating a nice space where your soul is going to start feeling a little more clean, where this kind of experience can come through. It's important to go through an examination of conscience. You do this by examining yourself through the 7 deadly sins, which includes pride, envy, anger, sloth, avarice, gluttony, and lust. And you can also then examine that against the virtues in your life, which is chastity, temperance, charity, diligence, patience, kindness, and humility. What you're going to want to do with that is, a lot of people will find that they might have a particular one of those sins that is like their primary. For a lot of us, it might be lust. That was one of mine when I was younger, especially. And a lot of my readers have told me that they related to that, so I'll just throw it out there. And so like if that's something you struggle with, you might be wanting to put that with temperance, patience, diligence. And then what you're going to try to do is counterbalance. So you're like, okay, so I need to try to become more consciously aware and push against my tendencies in this area. So you're becoming more consciously aware, because we want to bring these things from a subconscious level to a conscious level, slowly, and do what we can there. There is a process, and this will become more obvious to the soul as the actual spiritual experiences begin to happen. There will be a discerning between superior and inferior actions, and that will be, this process of discernment that is shown to you through your mystical experiences. But you're going to start that through these examinations of conscience. And, some of this involves spiritual reading, and I highly recommend people consider doing spiritual reading in areas of mystical and ascetical theology, because that is how we do form our conscience. So use those virtues to counterbalance the vices. And of course, exercise remorse. And if you have trouble feeling remorse, then you want to actually utilize, some time to meditate on that, to actually generate remorse, because that's how we do that. We actually have to generate it if we don't naturally feel it, because this is something we are actually creating in ourselves. And, so what happens is energy follows course, which exercises the soul to the next level. So what we often don't realize is that by engaging in these actions, the energy actually follows just by the fact that we are doing these things. And so we're going to see by the very, very fact that we're doing these things, stuff starts happening. You'd be surprised how quickly just that very fact occurring, people don't realize how quickly that energy follows course. So we want to remember this. Energy follows course. It will bring your soul to the next level. So you want to remember this. When you're doing that spiritual reading, you are actually drawing that energy in, which is going to pull your soul up. That's what you want to do. When you are actually engaging in those prayers and that examination and exercising your soul, your mind, your thoughts to this process. It's going to help you immensely in this out-of-body travel effort. And of course, in your prayers, you want to ask for the spiritual gift of the virtues in your prayers. People don't often realize that the virtues are graces. And so graces are things that are given to us by the Holy Spirit, and so we want to ask for that gift. And we can do that in prayer. In a vision that was given to St. Catherine Labouré in the 1840s, I believe it was, she saw the Blessed Virgin Mother. And the Blessed Virgin Mother had gold rings on all 10 of her fingers. And St. Catherine asked her what those rings were. She said that like 2 or 3 of those rings, I can't remember exactly, were like glowing, and the others were not as lit up. And the Blessed Mother said to her, the ones that were glowing were the graces that people asked her for all the time, and the other gold rings were the ones that people very rarely asked her for. And so what she reminded us of in this vision she gave to St. Catherine was that it's important for us to ask for those graces. We remember